response. Being our second round now, I am going to keep the time close because I'd like to get a third round in. Mr. Carrick, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all the witnesses that are here today. So I'm going to start by tackling something that is, there's theory and then there's reality. So in theory, Secretary Long has already stated that the CRA is operating at a world-class level, smooth sailing moving forward, and he said that the former minister, he agreed that the former minister did a good job. Now we're going to get into the reality part of things, where there was a scathing Auditor General report, and in Secretary Long's own words in September, he said, "We hit rock bottom. It can't get much worse than it is now. I'd call this below rock bottom." So I'd like to just say there's theory, and then that's the actual reality. But what I find a little bit concerning is that Secretary Long was disputing some of the Auditor General reports. So simply, do you agree with the Auditor General reports, yes or no?
I accept the reports.
My question was, do you agree with the reports?
I accept the report.
Again, sir.
You know, I can offer accounting. I can offer a counter to that.
Excuse me, sir. It's my time. I'd like to get back to. I understand you accept the report. We all have to accept the report. My question is very clear, sir. Do you agree with the Auditor General's report referring to the CRA?
Nobody wants to receive a report where, you know, you're challenged. Certainly, the workers take it personally.
But, sir, again, I'd like to. In September, you said we hit rock bottom. It can't get much worse than now. I'd call this below rock bottom. But then you've given us some, you know, world-class smooth sailing moving forward, and you agreed that the former minister did a good job. Then you disputed the report. Again, I would like to ask you, do you agree with the Auditor General's report?
I accept the report.
Sir, that's not what I'm... Sir, in all due respect, sir, in all due respect, I do respect your position as Secretary, and that you've been here for 11 years, and you are a gentleman. And I do like your opening remarks that you would take accountability and you're forthwith. But please, sir, do you accept the Auditor General's report, yes or no? And
yes, I do accept it.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now, do you agree with the report?
No, you just asked me if I accepted it, and I accept it.
Said yes.
I agree with you that I accept it.
We have now established you accept it, so you don't need to say
you accepted the report. So I agree with you that I accept it.
Do you agree with the Auditor General's report?
Look, there's different recommendations in the report. I assume you've read the report?
Yes, I have, sir, okay. And I assume you've read it too. So again, sir, it's my time, sir. It's my time. In all due respect, do you agree with the Auditor General's report, yes or no? And to please answer the question.
I accept the report.
Sir, that's not the question I'm asking. And to be quite honest with you now, there's giggling. We're having a good time talking about hockey. This is a really serious question. And I'll tell you why, because I haven't got to the other point, and I'd love to get more time on this. Because as you know, sir, I have people coming into my constit, and they're not happy. And there is a Globe and Mail article that just came out and said that on disability tax credits, the CRA is still behind 3 to 6 months. So enough kidding around. Do you agree with the Auditor General's report, yes or no, sir?
I have a different view on the report, so it's really not a yes or no question, to be honest. Well, I have a problem with using 106 a subsample of 167.
So then you do not agree with the report?
I just don't accept their findings on that one.
So do you agree with the Auditor General's report, yes or no?
I don't accept the report.
Do you agree with it?
Some of it, yes. Some of it, no.
Fair enough.
You've got about 30 seconds, Mr. Carrick.
So disability tax credits should take 2 months. Is that correct? Is that what the 100-day plan is trying to achieve?
Yeah, we're at, right now, we're at 10 and a half weeks.
Okay.
It should be 8.
And it's
Thank
moving
you.
forward.
I'm afraid that is it for the
Thank
time.
you.
I'm going to go now to Ms. Yip.
You're next.
Thank you, sir. 5 minutes is not near enough. I could take you all day with all the questions that I have being in public practice for 26 years. I have a few problems with some of the things you've said, but let's start with the very first part. My colleague here was going on about report. Let me redefine here. You said you accepted some of the findings, but do you accept the recommendations that the Auditor General has given?
I would say, by and large, yes.
Okay. You also said earlier that the buck stops with you. We've had
From May 13th on.
from May 13th on. I know I won't hold you to account for all the problems in the past, but you did say that your previous Secretary of State was
Minister.
Minister was a good minister. I would differ with that too. But let's just go back to one thing that has stated that in the past, in previous committee meetings, they had said there's a difference between what the department does and what agencies do, and who's responsible for that. So going forward, would you say that you are going to be the one responsible for all the decisions at the top for making certain decisions that the CRA agency actually makes? There was a difference there in what we were doing.
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, there's obviously the ministry side and there's the agency side, and I'd argue it's at arm's length. We have a wonderful working relationship with the commissioner, the deputy commissioner. We work together. We prioritize. They present us with options and plans. But Commissioner Hamilton is responsible and basically
that's
runs the CRA. I think we all know that.
Part of my something that has been so CPAs always every year have to have so many hours of development, professional development, and I've gone to many of these things, and the number one thing that is always said is that the last few years is if you actually get through and got onto there, and that, yes, you may have changed it now, but for the timing, but we're in the slow part of the year.
Yes.
So the proof will be in the pudding when we come into the spring.
It will be.
For the time.
Yes.
But one of the things they always say is, absolutely, first thing you do, and if you don't hear it, rewrite down that agent's ID number so you can go back, because 9 times out of 10, we will phone back 2 hours later and we'll get a different answer. So that's always to make sure that we get the right, if we're not getting the answer that we like, often we'll phone back and get a different person, and you will get a different answer. So I think you're going to have some training on that end of it. And I'm wondering one of the things that the Auditor General said was, and we've gotten some different information from the department versus the Auditor General on this, is how they calculate how much training there actually is for these people on the call centers. Have you allocated more time and resources to training the agents that are taking the questions?
Through you, Chair, I thank the member for the question. Look, clearly how the CRA's employees are trained and allocated and shifted around, and if they go from this department to this department, obviously the training regime is key. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, but if I can, I will actually turn this over to the Deputy Commissioner just to comment on the training regime.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the training is a very important component of our activities. Every time we hire new people, it's training that takes several weeks, but there's also continuous training.
Mais oui, on va continuer d'améliorer.
But yes, we'll continue to improve it and to focus on training particularly. but we'll continue to train our people properly and continue to use technology and tools.
To one more point that I have, the one thing you said you were really excited about was the future modernization. I would say that that's actually been more of a problem in regards to as a sole practitioner dealing with farmers that may be in their 80s.
Your question, Mr. Stevenson.
So basically on my main question is, what are you going to do about in this modernization for those that are not technically able to, because you've eliminated paper filing for GST and brought in huge fines for those elderly people that don't have a computer. How are you going to address those people that are getting fines with regards to that?
Through you, Chair, thank you to the member for that question. Look, the shift to modernization to the new system from IBM to Bell is a challenge. It's necessary. We all know, I show my age here, but AI is a bigger and bigger part of our lives. But look, there's always going to be a healthy, well-staffed, vibrant call center for Canadians to call and get response. I think the fact that we've increased from 34 to over 74% in these 100 days, 94 days to be clear, I think is a very, very successful number so far.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now. You'll have a chance to come back, and Mr. Long later on, you'll be able to pick it up if you like as well. Mr. Osborne, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Here we go. Am I going to get in the picture?
Yeah, that's true. I did say that. I said that. Yes. So, and I'm a man of my words also.
You are. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just pulling up my question for my colleagues.
You on?
Your budget has a line specifically saying that enhanced oil recovery is not going to be eligible for tax credits, and that's contradicted in the MOU. Can you square that?
Caution, unpredictable squirrels ahead. Them squirrels hit the asphalt, man, you don't know where they're going. Number 2, warning, beware of falling coconuts. They're more dangerous than sharks. I could see that. 3, attention, guard geese on duty. Geese are just downright mean.
I now go to the question and answer segment. These segments, the first one is a 6-minute segment, and it means that the 6 minutes is for the question and the answer. So everybody, please be as concise as you can so we can get as many answers as we can get. So I begin.
Okay, guys, I'm going to do a tornado siren once again.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by 2 separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
They're going to come forward and talk about their discontent, I guess, with the pipeline MOU.
You should ask my colleagues. I can't speak on their behalf.
Have you been hearing any concerns?
I'm sorry? I think the economics of world energy are changing. There's obviously still a demand for oil, but if you look at the reports from the International Energy Agency, this demand is going to peak very soon. And you can debate, is it 2028, is it 2030, but is it worth investing billions of dollars? And I think that's why we haven't seen any proponents of the project, whether to the south or to the west coast. There's no companies right now that are willing to put this money because the future prospect of being able to make this a lucrative business are diminishing.
Regret your comments yesterday. The Quebec Premier was calling.
No, I said what I said, and I think I've proved in my previous roles that in doubling French immigration in Canada, which is something the federal government had never done, and been part of a government that recognized the decline of the French language across Canada. and modified the law on official languages as a result, plus the $4 million investment, and send $800 million to Quebec for francization of new arrivals. It's nice to talk, but actions count, and I think I've proved myself.
Was on the block on C9, right? Like, are you okay with this amendment?
C9 is an excellent piece of legislation. It protects worshippers. It protects people. It's been requested by many people in society, and we certainly hope that the opposition gets on with the job.
Êtes-vous tanné de parler de déclin français au Québec?
Pardon?
Est-ce que vous êtes tanné de parler de déclin français?
Moi, je suis
How do you feel about a Canadian company sending armored vehicles to ICE?
You have to talk to the minister about that.
What do you think of François Legault attacking your colleague yesterday, saying what he said was a disgrace to Quebecers?
I don't have a lot to say about that, but I think Mr. Legault has some interesting opinions sometimes.
Est-ce que c'est des conneries ce que M. Miller a dit hier?
Conneries.
C'est les mots que François Legault a employés hier. Il a dit que c'était des conneries.
M. Legault a parfois des opinions intéressantes.
Oh, well, look, I mean, we're at the start of a long process. There's not even a specific project yet to react to, so I think we're going to have to wait and see how this all comes out in the wash.
What's your understanding of how long it should take or could take to reach that $130 per ton industrial carbon price from Alberta?
Well, that's part of the negotiation to come. The MOU sets out timelines to set what that time schedule looks like. I think it's April 1st. I'm just going from memory here. And so we'll see then, but yeah, hopefully soon.
I was going to say, do you think that 130, that minimum price should come into effect sooner rather than later? I know these are subject to negotiations,
Yeah.
but what's your preference?
Well, the devil's always in the details because this is about an effective price. So the effective price is often quite different from the sticker price. Just look at right now, the effective price in Alberta is around $25 a ton. So this is a significant ramping up from there. So it will take some time. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But yeah, it comes down to the details, what's covered, stringency, all of that.
It's been the review. Do you have any concerns about how that review may go for Canada?
Well, I think every Canadian has concerns about how the review may go for Canada. This was the focal point of the election. It's what my constituents are concerned about. I live 10 minutes from the border. It's fundamentally concerning for everyone.
What do you think?
Do you think we'll get a bilateral deal on some of these sectoral tariffs before the CUPA review starts, or is that shot now?
I don't think anything's shot. I know both sides want to have deals. I met with the U.S. ambassador a couple weeks ago. He seemed that he wants deals between Canada and the United States. We'll see what those are. And I don't know what's before Canada and Minister DeLong. I have to ask him.
What do you think that Brampton firm is going to send armored vehicles to ICE in the United States? Do you think that's something that the government should be, Canada should be doing?
My instinctive reaction is I do not feel good about that, but let me look into it and I'll provide fuller comment once I read about it.
How is your caucus going to stay united with the MOU thing, dividing the prospect of a coastal pipeline, upending the tanker ban, the concerns from the AFN? How is all of this going to drive a wedge between the BC MPs and the environmentalists in your party and the rest of it?
I'm less concerned about the politics of it and more what's the thoughtful, substantive debate, where's the right answer, and how do we have that thoughtful, constructive conversation. I mean, the fact that Stephen is still in caucus, I think is an important message to say he didn't have solidarity around the cabinet decision, but he's an important voice in that room. I feel that way sometimes where I disagree with the government, but I think it's important to have that constructive, thoughtful conversation. So I'm less worried about this, there's a lack of unity. It's more let's be serious and thoughtful. Yeah. Thanks.
Mr. Maloney, do you support this idea of removing the religious defense option from Canada's hate speech laws?
I'm the chair of the committee. I'm going to see how things unfold.
What happened yesterday?
We had a 2-hour committee meeting. What do you mean what happened yesterday?
Why is it stalled? The committee seemed at some point to be willing to meet until later in the night to get through clause by clause. And then there was an adjournment, so what happened?
No, the committee schedule set from 3:30 to 5:30, which it did. We were prepared to go longer if necessary. The committee decided it wasn't necessary to do that yesterday, that's all. Modeling myself after you, Andrew.
So you have I'll ask you.
Okay. You'll have to bear with me. It's been a few years since I've chaired a committee. I see we have some hands up over here, so Mr. Housefather, Ms. Latanzio, I'll put you on the list. Where was that list you just gave me? Thank you.
Yes, if you want to just say this.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, first of all, let me raise my chair so I don't look like a child sitting in this chair. I do thank you. Look, I've had the good fortune of chairing a committee in the past. It's a privilege which I take most seriously. I hope that people who I have served with on the committee in this capacity before will tell you that I've gone out of my way to be fair and reasonable, which is my approach to everything, which I will continue to do. And you have my commitment to work with all of you on the same terms, regardless of party. So, and I look forward to continuing the good work on this committee on a cordial basis that we have for some time. So before I get to the speakers list, I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 13 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Today's meeting is taking place in hybrid format. Pursuant to the standing orders, members are attending in person in the room and remotely using Zoom application. Before we continue, I would ask that all in-person participants to consult the guidelines written on the cards on the table. These measures are in place to help prevent audio and feedback incidents and to protect the health and safety of all participants, including and especially the interpreters. You will also notice a QR code on the card which links to a short awareness video. So I would, that's fine, okay, all right, see. I'm going to have to take a lot of direction from the clerk. It's been a while, as I said. So the meeting agenda provided only for election of the chair. So, Mr. Housefather, I saw you had your hand up.
Point of order.
I will go to.
Point of order. Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Housefather. That's a dilatory motion, as I
Point
recall
of
the
order,
rules.
Chair.
I heard you, Mr. Lawton, and you will be heard.
A point of order requires immediate consideration.
I'm familiar with that rule too.
Okay.
We'll get along.
So I have the floor then?
No, you don't. You'll have the floor when I give you the floor. We'll get along just fine if we both respect each other's opportunity to speak.
If you respect the rules, sir, we'll get along a lot better. A point of order.
If you're going to start challenging my integrity right out of the gate, Mr. Lawton, we are not going to get along very well. As I said at the outset, I intend to be fair. I will always be fair. Comments like that are not going to help. Mr. Housefather has tabled a motion, which is a dilatory motion, which, as I understand the rules, required to be voted on with no debate. So I'm going to call that motion for.
Chair, you are actually ignoring the rules of this committee right now.
I am not ignoring the rules, Mr. Lawton.
Chair, if you will acknowledge the 44th Parliament Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development meeting of May 16th, 2022.
Okay, Mr. Lawton. Mr. Lawton, I have called a vote. That is my ruling. We're going to take the vote, and I'm going to ask the clerk to do that right now. Thank you. Over to you.
Mr. Chang.
Oh, sorry.
Monsieur le Président, pour vous lire la motion, s'il vous plaît.
Can you read the motion, please, Chair?
Mr. Fortin, just bear with me. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Fortin.
What do you make of this idea of even this committee tackling this question of removing religious defenses from Canada's hate speech laws?
Well, look, I'm the chair of the committee now, so like I said, we'll let the things unfold as they will at the committee, and people will have their say.
Is there an actual agreement between the Liberals and the Bloc on this? Like, is it set in stone? What's going on there?
I'm not aware of anything. Yeah, look, as I said, I chair the committee. I make sure things run smoothly, and that's my responsibility.
Are things running smoothly?
Well, let me put it this way. I became the chair yesterday. It was the best meeting we had as chair. So.
Okay, all right.
No, I think they did run very smoothly.
Good morning. Would you Secretary Carney spoken that he thinks that the BC Liberals do not have any concerns about the MOU. Do you have any concerns about the MOU?
No, I think this is good for Canada. I think it's good for everybody. I think there will be all the consultation that people require. I think that this is basically good news.
What about the tanker ban? Do you think that you can build a pipeline without lifting the tanker ban?
Well, we'll have to see. That's beyond my knowledge, but we'll have to see.
What do you think of this proposal to remove religious defense from hate speech? Is that opening a can of worms for the government?
I don't believe so, no.
How come?
I don't believe it's.
Do you support it? There's reported in the National Post this week that the
Liberals have already agreed to do this to get the bloc support on Bill C9. Can you just get your thoughts on this?
Honestly, Mark, I really haven't followed it, so I'm not in a position to offer much commentary of substance. So maybe you can brief me a little bit more about what you're hearing, but I haven't been following it this week.
So you have no just in general about speech laws, like you don't like. There's the religious exemption on two of the.
Right, you're talking about like the ability for a religious leader to say something that could be perceived as hateful, but essentially be shielded by a
if in good faith speech. It was yes.
This is the type of sensitive discussion that I really want to come prepared to a conversation with a journalist about, having thought about it, analyzed it, talked to people in my constituency, and I haven't done that, so I'd be disingenuous to try to offer you anything beyond that.
Do you think the government is prepared?
Well, I think I've just told Mark that I don't have enough information.
But do you think this government is?
Well, what I'm saying to Mark is I don't have enough information, meaning I'm not following it particularly closely, meaning I wouldn't be in a position to tell you whether others are following it closely or not.
Can I ask you about the Alberta MOU, the part about enhanced oil recovery, and again, Canada committing to ensuring that ITCs apply to enhanced oil recovery. There's a line in the budget that specifically said that enhanced oil recovery would not apply to ITCs, and 10 days after the budget passed in this MOU we see it in there. Are you worried that the budget has any substance, or even how can Canadians be confident that anything in the budget...
You're getting pretty granular now. I would probably defer to Minister DeBruce.
Okay. So I'll ask you more broadly then. Sure. There's a budget line item that said, we will not do this. 10 days later, in the Alberta MOU, it happened. Does the budget hold the paper that it's printed on?
Like I said, I'd defer to Minister DeBruce on that.
Safety and security aspect, but there's a lot of people coming and going as well. So my meetings have been with IRCC and CBSA, and just focusing on how this can build the economy and this can grow our national GDP. It's also a great way to meet new countries and create new relationships. So it's all very good.
The U.S. or the new New York mayor says he wants to do something to cap ticket prices. Anything on your end in terms of concern about those prices are going to be so great? We saw how during the World Series, for example, on the secondary market, how they just made so cheap prices.
Yeah, the secondary market concerns something that I'm very alive to, and I would like to see better safeguards on the secondary market for ticket sales, not just for FIFA, but across the board. I think that the best way to enjoy the World Cup next year is probably going to be in a public area, because Canada's stadiums are actually very small. We need a large format stadium. Most college and university cities in the United States have a bigger college stadium than the biggest stadium in Canada. So the best part about hosting FIFA isn't necessarily being in the stadium, it's the vibe. It's going to be an amazing vibe in Canada. So we certainly want to make sure that it's accessible for everybody. And just yesterday they announced that families can apply to have their children be ball bears. But that's going to be a really exciting thing. You've seen FIFA games before where the players come out with a young athlete. So it's an exciting time for Canada, the United States, and Mexico, and I'm excited to go down to Washington on Friday with the Prime Minister.
In general, what do you think of the...
I don't have a good comment, so I won't say anything.
Do you think this is a smart path for the government to even consider going down? I know it's wanted to legislate against hate. No one's questioning the police reported rise in hate, but getting into areas of religious texts and what may or may not be allowed in a defense, broadly, is that a smart path for the government to go down?
I'm afraid you're asking the wrong guy, because I don't have a lot of insight into this.
Okay.
Sorry.
Has what the Prime Minister said, what the ministers have said, assured you that everything's okay and they're not going to piss off your constituents?
I mean, look, what the Prime Minister has said, that any pipeline is going to require the consent of First Nations and the province, and I think that's really important for discussing anything like these kinds of projects. So.
Can I ask you, on the government flipping so quickly with regards to enhanced oil recovery applying to ITCs, any concerns about how quickly the government flipped a stance, considering the budget had a line in there saying that enhanced oil recovery would not apply to tax credits?
I mean, I think that's a really important thing that the Prime Minister will have to answer about, because, I mean, we've had a pretty clear stance on not having or having a policy to phase out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, and that very much seems like a step in that.
So why should
I got to write to it.
Here we go. Am I going to get in the picture?
Yeah, that's true. I did say that. I said that. Yes.
So,
and I'm a man of my words also.
You are. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just pulling up my question for my colleagues.
You on?
Your budget has a line specifically saying that enhanced oil recovery is not going to be eligible for tax credits, and that's contradicted in the MOU. Can you square that?
I would have to get back to you specifically on that question to make sure that we can give you the most appropriate answer. But I think what you found in the budget is that there's a number of tax credit. I would say we're probably in the G7, the country which has offered the most competitive tax environment for clean technology when it comes to natural resources. So I would say that Canada is well positioned to be a responsible and also a sustainable producer of natural resources, because honestly, when you compare to the G7, you look at Canada, you'd say thumbs up, because no one has the suite of tax credit we have, whether it's respect to hydrogen, whether it's about CC, carbon capture and sequestration, whether it's about clean electricity, whether it's about critical minerals. So we have a very large, I would say, portfolio of tax incentive, but specifically to your question, I'm happy to come back to you.
And can I ask you as well about going to the AFN? Why are you heading here?
Because they invited me, and so I'm very delighted. I'm told by the Assembly of First Nation chief that I'm the first finance minister to appear there, so I'm looking forward to that. It's very important because as we build this country, First Nations are and Indigenous people are part of the fabric of Canada. So how do we move forward together? How we build things together? I can tell you, for example, the Indigenous Loan Guarantee is a hallmark of Canada. The G7 countries all look at Canada and say, wow, this is a great way to make sure that First Nation can be part of building these major projects in the country. So I think it's going to be, there's a lot of good news in the budget for Indigenous people, and certainly looking forward to engage. I was with them yesterday and we'll be with them tomorrow.
Minister, the head of Algoma said that the federal government and Ontario government knew about their business plan to cut jobs, or at least to readjust the workforce when they did get that money from the federal and provincial government. Did you know, and what did you say about that plan to cut jobs?
Well, what I can say, what I know is that without federal support, Algoma would not be in the position that they are today, because what we needed to do was to make sure we support Algoma, first for the workers, and secondly for pivoting to a different technology. What we did with the Ontario government was really to step up, do our part to make sure that we support the workers and support the industry as they're pivoting to their new method of producing steel, which is the electric arc furnace, which was a plan they had and would ultimately make Algoma more competitive. Now, what we need to do, priority number one, is to work with the workers and make sure we support them. We have work sharing programs in place. But what I can tell you is that I know that if it was not for the federal government, with our provincial partners stepping in, Algoma would not be in the position they are today.
But why give them money if you knew that they were going to cut jobs?
Well, what I'm saying is that if it was not for federal and provincial support, the situation at Algoma would be far different today.
I do need to take him because we have a commitment with some international parliamentarians. So I don't mean to be rude. You can reach out anytime. Happy to do it.
But what I'm saying is that if it was not for the support, the situation at Algoma would be dire today, more challenging than what you see. So that's why we step up to make sure we can do our part to assure the long-term sustainability of Algoma. Merci, merci.
In frontline politics, from the House of Commons, from Parliament, from the committee meetings, from the scrums, from legacy media even, we will delve there. Anyhow, we're trying to learn about Canadian federal politics. Watch the information from the source. Make up your own mind. You can judge for yourself, make up your own decision on which way you want to vote next time. Let's take a peek at why you would consider not ever voting Liberal again. These guys are a bunch of villains and corrupt politicians. Let's take a peek.
Mr. Cooper, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to
ask Mr. D'Amato to elaborate on a comment that he made earlier, which is, and if I misheard you, then please state so, but I understood that you said that regulations do not impede innovation. Did I hear that correctly?
There's a lot of studies that in terms of innovation in technology, regulations do not necessarily impede innovation. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There's no evidence that it is a sure thing that if we put in regulations that AI will be impeded in terms of innovation in Canada.
Yeah. You also noted that Canada really led the way and is a leader when it comes to research, but we haven't been such a leader when it comes to commercialization. We're certainly not a leader when it comes to adoption, far behind the United States. And I guess in sort of this broad debate about regulations, isn't there a real risk that taking a risk-averse approach is going to result in a regulatory framework that in some respects misses the boat in terms of actually addressing real risks, that in other words there's an overreach that is counterproductive and in the process stifles innovation, stifles commercialization, and stifles adoption, and as the rest of the world moves ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that every single regulation would be great. I think that world is possible, what you're saying. I would say all of the issues that you listed are happening right now in a world where Canada has no regulation. So clearly, in terms of adoption, being behind on adoption, in terms of being behind on Canadians trusting AI, which I think is a well-reasoned trust often. They don't know if they should trust these systems in their work. In terms of commercialization, in terms of Canada leading the way on research, but then not being able to commercialize, not being able to hold on to the IP, those are all issues that I think would have been solvable by making sure that, maybe not regulation, but making sure we had policy on holding on to IP, for example, that we fund with our own research funding, for example, over the last 30 years. So I think some regulations could miss the boat. I think in the EU AI Act, there's a focus on like number of flops for training, for example. So like the size of the database and the training run for an AI system. I think those kinds of regulations might miss the boat because the system, you might be able to, with new algorithms, train a system way easier on way less data, for example. So yeah, I think some of them might lock in certain things that would not be ideal. But I think actually what we're seeing is an economy and an ecosystem that is desperate for better guidance and better guidelines to help usher in use of these tools and development and innovation with these tools.
The other witness, does he have any comments?
Monsieur Gonzalo.
Mr. Gonzalo, sorry.
Merci. Écoutez, je suis
Thank you. I think that regulations don't hinder innovation. In fact, it allows us to have clear guidelines to better navigate the system. But there should be different levels for this legislation so that smaller players, and they represent a large part of our economy, so these mom and pop shops are often in regions. They shouldn't have legislation that is too strict.
Merci.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Barrett, for 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Does corporate consolidation, Ms. Bednar, does that make it easier for Canada to regulate something like knowability as a right, to pick up where we left off before? This idea about the illusion of choice is something that you've talked about a lot in your writing, and I think that some of that is there's a little bit more transparency for those who are looking and for those who have been presented with that information. But does it make it easier if we're dealing with a smaller number of really big players who are controlling many things? Does that make it easier, or does that have the opposite effect? Is it a bigger challenge for us?
It is interesting to think about, when and is corporate consolidation a strength for Canada or an opportunity? You know, you could argue that having fewer large companies allows government to more quickly consult with them or sort of get their views. But in terms of business practices and sort of coordination in markets of all size, what we see is that the small and medium-sized players tend to mimic and adopt practices that the larger ones have.
Right.
So, you know, they may set the pace or sort of set the bar in terms of how AI is used, but actually data and information as a competitive advantage is something that we haven't been able to really grapple with through our competition law and really appreciate what that means for barriers to entry for new markets coming to Canada, such as when Canada potentially explored having a new grocery store. Remember, we did that very Canadian thing. We just asked really, really nicely. You know, lots of reasons for that. Part of it is geography and real estate, that most many large grocers are also, you know, in the real estate business fundamentally. We also saw this with, say, the Bay. The former CEO of the Bay said, we are actually not a retailer, we're a real estate company. But through loyalty programs and the information profiles that they have on us, it allows them to, again, you could argue, manipulate or set markets in particular ways. So maybe it makes it more easy for them to control markets.
So I have a question for you, and it's not from me. It's from an AI model.
Okay.
I asked it what I should ask you.
Okay.
And I used a model I don't normally use for any purpose, so that it didn't have any or much context about me or why I'm asking you the question.
Okay.
The question it has, so I'm sure it's listening. Which widely believed narrative about AI in Canada do you think is most misleading right now, and what risks does that misconception create for policymakers or the public?
I've already touched on, thank you for the question to you and the AI system of your choice. I mean, I've already touched on that kind of false opposition of, any form of regulation is going to get in the way of innovation. I think something I come up against a lot in my research and my work is this idea that because there's not a government regulation, that a market is ungoverned or the market is more free. All markets have rules. The question is whether those rules have been democratically set and are transparent. And then, as you're saying, as you're trying to attract investment and say that companies should come here and compete, they know that they're going to have a fair shot. Or those rules can be set by private actors who become de facto regulators. And when that happens, as we've seen in digital markets, the rules are set in favor of the largest companies, right? And that's why so much of our e-commerce environment, which I think we sort of still idealize as a kind of free-ish market, are characterized by situations where large companies, but companies of all sizes, both own and operate in a marketplace, and that allows them to manipulate that marketplace. 48 cents, maybe 45 of every dollar by sellers, independent sellers earned on Amazon goes to Amazon. So again, when we look at those companies and say, well, man, why aren't they more productive? Why aren't they earning more? When half of every dollar of revenue you own is going to a kind of essentially junk fee that's been going up and up and up, maybe that's something that's getting in the way. Is that a free market? I don't think so.
What's the solve, back to me now, what's the solve for, what's the solution, or what is the policy proposal that you would recommend? Is this about awareness? Is the changing prices, are the changing prices in grocery stores based on the time of day, based on who is nearby, on sites like Amazon? My 5-year-old circled everything in the Amazon book.
Mr. Barrett, I just...
My 12-year-old asked, well, how much does this one cost, because the price wasn't there.
So I just put in Copilot that, is Mr. Barrett's time up? And it said yes, it is. So...
It was a hallucination. The time.
Yes, so... no, it wasn't.
I know.
Can we come back to you on that? Okay, thanks, Madame.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Cooper, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask Mr. D'Amato to elaborate on a comment that he made earlier, which is, and if I misheard you, then please state so, but I understood what you said, that regulations do not impede innovation. Did I hear that correctly?
There's a lot of studies that in terms of innovation in technology, regulations do not necessarily impede innovation. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There's no evidence that it is a sure thing that if we put in regulations that AI will be impeded in terms of innovation in Canada.
Yeah. You also noted that Canada really led the way and is a leader when it comes to research, but we haven't been such a leader when it comes to commercialization. We're certainly not a leader when it comes to adoption, far behind the United States. And I guess in sort of this broad debate about regulations, isn't there a real risk that taking a risk-averse approach is going to result in a regulatory framework that in some respects misses the boat in terms of actually addressing real risks, that in other words there's an overreach that is counterproductive and in the process stifles innovation, stifles commercialization, and stifles adoption, and as the rest of the world moves ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that every single regulation would be great. I think that world is possible, what you're saying. I would say all of the issues that you listed are happening right now in a world where Canada has no regulation. So clearly, in terms of adoption, being behind on adoption, in terms of being behind on Canadians trusting AI, which I think is a well-reasoned trust often. They don't know if they should trust these systems in their work. In terms of commercialization, in terms of Canada leading the way on research, but then not being able to commercialize, not being able to hold on to the IP, those are all issues that I think would have been solvable by making sure that, maybe not regulation, but making sure we had policy on holding on to IP, for example, that we fund with our own research funding, for example, over the last 30 years. So I think some regulations could miss the boat. I think in the EU AI Act, there's a focus on like number of flops for training, for example. So like the size of the database and the training run for an AI system. I think those kinds of regulations might miss the boat because the system, you might be able to, with new algorithms, train a system way easier on way less data, for example. So yeah, I think some of them might lock in certain things that would not be ideal. But I think actually what we're seeing is an economy and an ecosystem that is desperate for better guidance and better guidelines to help usher in use of these tools and development and innovation with these tools.
The other witness, does he have any comments?
Mr. Gonzalo?
Mr. Gonzalo, sorry.
Merci. Écoutez, je suis
Thank you. I think that regulations don't hinder innovation. In fact, it allows us to have clear guidelines to better navigate the system. But there should be different levels for this legislation so that smaller players, and they represent a large part of our economy, so these mom and pop shops are often in regions. They shouldn't have legislation that is too strict.
Merci.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Barrett, for 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Does corporate consolidation, Ms. Bednar, does that make it easier for Canada to regulate something like knowability as a right, to pick up where we left off before? This idea about the illusion of choice is something that you've talked about a lot in your writing, and I think that some of that is there's a little bit more transparency for those who are looking and for those who have been presented with that information. But does it make it easier if we're dealing with a smaller number of really big players who are controlling many things? Does that make it easier, or does that have the opposite effect? Is it a bigger challenge for us?
It is interesting to think about, when and is corporate consolidation a strength for Canada or an opportunity? You know, you could argue that having fewer large companies allows government to more quickly consult with them or sort of get their views. But in terms of business practices and sort of coordination in markets of all size, what we see is that the small and medium-sized players tend to mimic and adopt practices that the larger ones have.
Right.
So, you know, they may set the pace or sort of set the bar in terms of how AI is used, but actually data and information as a competitive advantage is something that we haven't been able to really grapple with through our competition law and really appreciate what that means for barriers to entry for new markets coming to Canada, such as when Canada potentially explored having a new grocery store. Remember, we did that very Canadian thing. We just asked really, really nicely. You know, lots of reasons for that. Part of it is geography and real estate, that most many large grocers are also, in the real estate business fundamentally. We also saw this with, say, the Bay. The former CEO of the Bay said, we are actually not a retailer, we're a real estate company. But through loyalty programs and the information profiles that they have on us, it allows them to, again, you could argue, manipulate or set markets in particular ways. So maybe it makes it more easy for them to control markets.
So I have a question for you, and it's not from me. It's from an AI model.
Okay.
I asked it what I should ask you.
Okay.
And I used a model I don't normally use for any purpose, so that it didn't have any or much context about me or why I'm asking you the question.
Okay.
The question it has, so I'm sure it's listening. Which widely believed narrative about AI in Canada do you think is most misleading right now, and what risks does that misconception create for policymakers or the public?
I've already touched on, thank you for the question to you and the AI system of your choice. I mean, I've already touched on that kind of false opposition of, any form of regulation is going to get in the way of innovation. I think something I come up against a lot in my research and my work is this idea that because there's not a government regulation, that a market is ungoverned or the market is more free. All markets have rules. The question is whether those rules have been democratically set and are transparent. And then, as you're saying, as you're trying to attract investment and say that companies should come here and compete, they know that they're going to have a fair shot. Or those rules can be set by private actors who become de facto regulators. And when that happens, as we've seen in digital markets, the rules are set in favor of the largest companies, right? And that's why so much of our e-commerce environment, which I think we sort of still idealize as a kind of free-ish market, are characterized by situations where large companies, but companies of all sizes, both own and operate in a marketplace, and that allows them to manipulate that marketplace. 48 cents, maybe 45 of every dollar by sellers, independent sellers earned on Amazon goes to Amazon. So again, when we look at those companies and say, well, man, why aren't they more productive? Why aren't they earning more? When half of every dollar of revenue you own is going to a kind of essentially junk fee that's been going up and up and up, maybe that's something that's getting in the way. Is that a free market? I don't think so.
What's the solve for, like, what's the solution, or what is the policy proposal that you would recommend? Is this about awareness? Is the changing prices, are the changing prices in grocery stores based on the time of day, based on who is nearby? On sites like Amazon, my 5-year-old circled everything in the Amazon book.
Mr. Barrett, I just...
My 12-year-old asked, well, how much does this one cost, because the price wasn't there.
So I just put in co-pilot that is Mr. Barrett's time up, and it...
President O'Gorman, I appreciated the summary of your processes. I'm just wondering, the 200 criminal investigators, you gave an outline of what they do, but can you be clear, are they tasked with finding these foreign nationals with criminal records who are being removed? Is that part of the criminal investigator's job?
No.
Whose job is it?
That would be the job of inland enforcement officers. Those are the 550 officers that I mentioned, roughly 400 of which are armed and tooled officers.
Okay, thank you. And can you clarify, we talked about some 600 foreign nationals, around that number. Are those all convicted, or are those convicted and suspected or charged?
Aaron, did you want to go?
So in our inventories, when we look at somebody, in our inventories, there'll be people that'll have criminality, various degrees of criminality. It could be crimes that they committed overseas and we've discovered here. It could be crimes they've committed here. So if you look, as Carl had mentioned earlier, 1% of our total inventory are people that have some sort of criminality. They will all serve their time. These are not people.
They've been charged, but what about people who are suspected of having or have been charged with crimes?
So it's an interesting, and the president referred to this when she talked about the extortion case, and it's a great example of how we work with law enforcement very proactively to use IRPA to disrupt criminal activity. So if in the instance of the 5 cases that removals for the in BC extortion cases, we're able to make the argument that we couldn't hit the criminal threshold, our policing colleagues couldn't hit the criminal threshold, but we could hit the IRPA threshold to say there were reasonable grounds to believe that these individuals were involved in organized crime, and on that basis we're able to remove them, which is a different standard than the criminal justice system.
Now, is there currently a directive in place for CBSA investigators to opt for release of offenders without conditions into the community? Is this now the default practice of CBSA?
Could you say that again?
Is it currently a directive in place for CBSA investigators to opt for the release of offenders without conditions into the community?
The release from immigration detention, or
yes.
from?
I'll start with questions to Mr. Parton. Mr. Parton, in early September of this year, you were cited in a news article where you gave a quote that said, "You bring TFWs in for 50% wage and outbid employers who have been supporting apprenticeships, investing in Canadians to train the next generation of construction workers. You lose out on the bid because you're not competitive anymore." So this committee often hears testimony that we need to sustain the high levels of immigration that Canada has seen over the last several years. But I find that incongruent with data that shows that we have a serious youth jobs crisis. Can you expand on the statement that you made and talk about why it is important to scrap the TFW program, and perhaps why it's more important to be training Canadian youth and looking at productivity measures within and incenting productivity measures within industry rather than relying on immigration to address some of these gaps?
Well, it is, yeah, absolutely. So when I said, $10.44, that's ERSD's model or wage that they think an iron worker's worth. Certainly in our union, it's upwards of probably, it's in the 50%, 45 to 50% higher wage bracket. I would talk about in the last 12 months, the work that my local's done, specifically in attracting young Canadians, young ladies, and young fellas to come in what we called boot camp, where they'd spend 2 to 3 weeks, kind of a pre-apprentice type, earn while you learn. Of that, we ran 140 young ladies through and young men through. 102 are still with us. It was an 80% retention rate. All of those young people have out to work for $30 an hour as a starting wage, and they all entered into the apprenticeship. And when we talk about temporary foreign workers, I think the median wage for them was in ironworking was $30 to $31 an hour. Well, why would I, as a young person, start out at the 30? If that was the top wage that I'm going to get as a journey person after taking all this training, why would I even enter the trade when I could, go to Tim Hortons and make $18, $19?
Just for time? So there's a canard, or like there's a bit of a fallacy, I think, that, or there's this perception that high levels of temporary foreign workers, whether they come in through the traditional TFW stream or in unsustainable levels through student permits, that they don't take first job opportunities from Canadian youth. Do you think that statement is true, or has what you've seen in your union, does it actually show the opposite, that it actually in fact does take opportunities from Canadian youth?
It does. It cuts the legs out from underneath the apprenticeship system as well. In 4 to 5 years ago, 80% of all the TFW ironworkers came to BC. It was statistically impossible that somehow British Columbia was living in the Goldilocks zone. It became a business model of low wages. And when you're paying low wages, say in Burnaby, the city of Burnaby, if you Google it right now and say, well, what do I need to afford rent in the city of Burnaby? It's about $42 an hour. So not only were we undercutting wages for everyday work Canadians, we were also doing a disservice to the TFWs as well.
So just to be clear, you would advise the committee to recommend to the government to scrap the TFW program and reduce other forms of temporary work permits in lieu of perhaps focusing more on apprenticeship training and securing opportunities for Canadian youth. Is that correct?
Yeah, again, I'd go back to my recommendations.
Thank you. With the time I have left, I'm going to go to Mr. Copeland. You talked a bit about the Danish model and the need for integration. It's sometimes a taboo topic, but I think we are starting to see a loss of cultural cohesion in Canada. We have to be very sensitive about how we talk about that so that we're not, eroding Canada's pluralism through the discussion. But we also can't assume that Canada's pluralism is going to be maintained without having the discussion in a structured way. So you talked about the Danish model.
1 minute.
With the time I have left, could you give a few recommendations to the committee, and then also would you be willing to put in additional written recommendations on how to achieve the integration that you talked about in your remarks?
Yeah, certainly I'd be happy to provide additional written recommendations, and I would agree that it's a very fine line to trot. And when I think about integration, certainly we have to ensure that there are responsibility and duties out on the part of immigrants, but we also need to provide adequate support. And I think the Danish model is interesting in that it makes the receipt of certain benefits for both temporary classes and then permanent residents conditional upon certain things. So for temporary, they actually have to demonstrate their own capacity to provide for benefits of various types, so social services, healthcare, what have you. And for long-term permanent status, they need to demonstrate consistent labor market participation and civic literacy and language acquisition. So these are things. Denmark is a country with an integration act. There are a number of other countries like Canada, peer nations like Netherlands and Germany that have things like this. I think it's something we should look to incorporate into perhaps our
collaborate with us in making things happen in this country, and they always politicize things. when the commitments of security or crime or any other issues that is important for Canadians. And I would like to thank member for his question, and I would say we have to enforce the law as it exists. Thank you.
The honourable member, well, there will be about a minute and 14 seconds remaining after question period to continue the questions and comments exchange. Right now, we must go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Prescott Russell Cumberland.
Mr. Speaker, as we move into the holiday season, I rise today to honour one of the greatest women I know, my mother, Leslie Jean Anderson. Jean gave birth to and raised 7 children. She made every meal from scratch and built our home on a foundation of devotion and generosity.
Like so many women across the country, she is one of our country's unsung heroes. Women take care of their families without pay, often without rest, and they reinvest almost everything, their time, their energy, and their hearts into their families and their communities.
This holiday season, let us recognize these extraordinary women, our mothers, for what they truly are, nation builders. Wishing everyone, especially the mothers in Prescott Russell Cumberland and across Canada, a very happy holiday season. Joyeuses fêtes.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke.
Hark the herald, Brookfield PM sleigh is near. Bringing gifts for all his friends this year. Consultants cheer, lobbyists sing, corporate stockings overflow with bling. Now the PM poses by a door, a photo op that's only decor. Fake homes for the cameras flash, but taxpayers send real cash. Brookfield's modular dreams take flight on subsidies through Christmas night. Insiders feast while young workers fall. This isn't charity, it's a corporate haul. While steel workers lose their pay, Brookfield cashes in today. Tax credits wrapped with care and with bows, handouts for customers, everyone he knows. Arc furnaces hum, the contracts flow, electric riches make profits grow. But for families left in the cold, this tale of cronyism must be told. Canadians deserve a fair refrain, not the PM's plan for insider gain. Let's put the workers first, not billionaires, and bring real hope to he who really cares.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, I count it a great honour to speak today. On December 1st, we marked the 20th anniversary of the Labrador Inuit Land Claims Agreement. This historic treaty between the Nunavut government, the Government of Canada, and the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador stands as a powerful example of reconciliation. It formally recognizes that the Inuit have lived on and have stewarded the lands of Northern Labrador since time immemorial. However, this agreement did not come easily. I reflect today on the many Labrador Inuit who, over decades, fought tirelessly to have their rights recognized by the federal and provincial governments. I wish to acknowledge the trailblazing leaders whose vision, resilience, and determination made this treaty possible. We honor the enduring relationship between Canada and the Inuit of Labrador. Today and every day, we recognize our shared history and reaffirm our commitment to building a future together, one that respects Inuit rights.
The honourable member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katiskamik, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank some people who are very important to me. We know that our role as members of Parliament would not be possible without our teams, and with my team, it's no exception. Annie Francoeur, who's been working with me for nearly 12 years. She's not just my right hand, she's both my arms, Mr. Speaker. After our accident in October, she still needs some time to rest. We miss her very much, and we wish her a speedy recovery. Then there's Denise, who kindly welcomes citizens to my office in Rivière-du-Loup. In Montmagny, Annie Boutin is equally appreciated for her remarkable work. And what can I say about Anne, who manages our communications so well? We're also fortunate to have Shane, our Tigidou, in turn, who gives his all every day. And then there's our newest member of the team, Lauriane, whose good humor and speed make me look even more professional here in Ottawa. I'm blessed to be surrounded by such a wonderful team. Thank you for your passion and commitment to the people of Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik, Témiscouata. And I'd like to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to wish my team and everyone a very happy holidays across my beautiful riding.
The honourable member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very fortunate to live in a community that comes together to support those most in need. For the 17th year in a row, I'm proud to partner with 'Twas the Bite Before Christmas and my annual holiday turkey drive. Over these years, working together, we've raised more than $1.2 million to support food banks in Mississauga. We're once again raising money to provide turkey dinners for families throughout this holiday season. I'm grateful for the generous support of my neighbors and volunteers, and I appreciate the continued spirit of giving. 'Twas the Bite Before Christmas campaign and the holiday turkey drive go a long way toward fighting despair and feeding hope. I wish everyone peace, joy, and good health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the civil war in Sudan has been devastating, and Canadians have been shocked to learn that weapons made in this country have been used in the conflict by the RSF, the same organization responsible for genocide. This is not the first time this diversion putting weapons in the hands of genocidal actors. Canadian-made weapons have also been used by Russia against Ukraine. At a time when our allies are rearming, there is no excuse for allowing Canadian weapons to go to hostile regimes and militias responsible for genocide. The world must work to end the devastating war in Sudan, in particular by stopping the flow of arms to the combatants. And the Prime Minister's trip to the UAE could have focused more on that and less on advancing Brookfield's corporate interests. But Liberals are doubling down on a foreign policy of personal selfishness, autocrat idealization, and administrative incompetence, instead of on one that upholds our values and our security interests. The people of Sudan deserve freedom, democracy, and civilian administration. They have shown a will to fight for these things themselves. It shouldn't be much to ask for Canada to stop arming their oppressors.
Hear, hear. Hear. The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Over the past 20 years, I helped develop processes to deal with Aboriginal rights and title honourably on part of the Crown and First Nations respectively. It took years of trial and error, but it's what enabled projects like LNG Canada to be approved and brought peace to the forests in BC. Today, this Liberal government is disregarding and frustrating what was already a good process that met the needs of First Nations and non-First Nations alike. Offering to do consultations by Zoom is demeaning to First Nations. The idea that this Liberal government will start consultations once the application is made is an insult. It ignores all the best practices already laid out in other projects. Consultations should have started 8 months ago. The flip-flopping of statements to First Nations is not honourable. The messaging to First Nations from this Liberal government to First Nations changes every day and is confusing to Canadians who deserve leadership in the face of USA tariffs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I want to flag some disconcerting data regarding HIV/AIDS with my colleagues. The goal of ending AIDS as an epidemic globally by 2030 has gone off track. Poor nations are now increasing partly due to US funding cuts. But what's alarming is the 35% rise in new cases in Canada this year, especially in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and among First Nations. This is a result of poor tracking, cuts in funding for prevention and treatment, and the myth that HIV is no longer a problem. Antiretroviral therapy combined with pre-exposure prophylaxis is a successful made-in-Canada solution. But we need to move it. It was tried in BC with no new cases for decades. We need to introduce it now in provincial formularies and into a national pharmacare program. We will see the end to an AIDS pandemic by 2030 if we do that. Thank you.
The honourable member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the cold weather's back, lights are shining in the trees again. There can be no doubt about it, the holiday season is back. And for the 25th year, it's also the return of the traditional media food drive. 25 years of generosity toward families who need a little help to have a wonderful Christmas like everyone else. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I invite everyone who can to give generously, whether it be gifts of food or of money. We will be able to meet media stars throughout Quebec all day long today. But for those who don't have the chance to shake hands with our artisans, it's possible to make donations online until December 31st. Thank you to the media for being there for a quarter century now for our fellow citizens. Thank you to all Quebecers who participate, and thank you to our teams from the Bloc Québécois in the ridings who are contributing in many regions of Quebec. And finally, Mr. Speaker, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Ms. Corinne Beltrami, President of Événements Citoyens, who is passionately organizing the 7th edition of Terrebonne en Portrait. This magical and deeply human event shines a spotlight on families who are facing various challenges. Thanks to the commitment and hard work of more than 71 volunteers, many photographers, mascots, a makeup artist, and the star, a fairy, Santa Claus, and his elf, 61 families were able to enjoy an exceptional experience and leave with portraits imbued with magic and solidarity. Congratulations to Ms. Beltrami and her dedicated team for the resounding success of this 7th edition of Terrebonne en Portrait. Their generosity and creativity bring joy to the community, and they remind us of the power of sharing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Quebec-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, 8 months ago, the Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him by their experience at the grocery store. Today's food price report confirms that groceries keep getting more expensive. When the Liberals took office in 2015, the weekly grocery bill was $159. Today, it has more than doubled to $338, over $17,000 a year. And next year, families will pay another additional $1,000 more, the largest increase ever recorded. For rural Canadians, these costs hit especially hard. Many travel further to shop and have fewer options. We're seeing farmers struggle with soaring input costs, higher debt, and policies that make it more expensive to grow and transport food. Instead of cutting spending and axing hidden taxes and driving up prices, this government keeps raising them. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, especially around Christmas. It's time to lower costs and make food more affordable again, especially to those in our rural communities.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas.
Our new government has taken immediate action to improve public safety, to stop crime, and to hold criminals responsible. We've added much stricter penalties for gun, gang, and violent crime. We're strengthening bail to ensure criminals aren't released from jail. We're strengthening anti-hate laws to protect vulnerable populations from targeted harassment. We're protecting women from violence and exploitation, and we're giving police the modern tools that they need to infiltrate criminal networks, investigate, and stop crimes before they happen. This was done in close collaboration with police chiefs, frontline officers, legal experts, community partners, and victims' organizations to prevent crime, to hold criminals responsible, and to keep our communities safe. However, progress on these important public safety measures is being delayed by partisan conservative obstruction. Mr. Speaker, public safety is not a partisan issue. Canadians deserve action, not political stunts, so let's work together to keep Canadians safe. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, it's always a good day to be Brookfield under this Liberal government. Why? Canadians for Tax Fairness called Brookfield Canada's runaway leader in tax avoidance and estimates they have skipped out on paying $6.5 billion of Canadian taxes. It's clear that when the Prime Minister was running Brookfield, he would rather dodge their tax bill than contribute to Canada. Wow. Canadians deserve one set of rules for everyone. Instead, we get these special carve-outs for Brookfield and for the Prime Minister. The Conflict of Interest Act is clear. A public office holder must not involve themselves in any matter where they could benefit. Yet a Brookfield executive told committee the Prime Minister's ethics screen is basically an open window. All this while Canadians are facing record-high food prices just in time for Christmas dinner. Young Canadians are told to make more sacrifices, yet the Prime Minister is doubling our deficit. When will this Prime Minister stop acting like a greasy banker that puts his own personal interest in Brookfield ahead of everyday Canadians?
The honourable member for Saint-Laurent.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me to be here in the House this morning during my maternity leave on the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I speak with my daughter, Martina, in my arms. As I look at her, I think about the future that I want for her.
Mr. Speaker, I'm talking about a future where every woman, every girl can love, dream, and walk alone freely without fear. A future where existence itself is never a risk. On the Status of Women Committee, we heard about the necessary changes needed to be made to the justice system. We heard from countless witnesses about the urgent need for prevention, awareness, and better support for women. We must strengthen protection for victims and survivors and ensure that there are real consequences for abusers and perpetrators of violence. I will continue to prioritize these issues and look forward to working with my colleagues in government to make our country safer for women and girls.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, Canadians' grocery bills look less like a Christmas list and more like Clark Griswold's electricity bill. The Prime Minister told Canadians that he should be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, 8 months later, and we're feeling even more uncertainty and higher grocery bills. Today's food price report shows that grocery prices are still climbing, and it's only getting worse. When the Liberals took office in 2015, the average weekly grocery bill for a family was $159. Today it has doubled, totaling over $17,500 each year.
Shameful.
And now Canadians are being warned to brace for another $1,000 next year just to feed their families. Instead of gifting Canadians a Griswold-style Christmas bonus full of empty promises and hollow announcements, the Prime Minister should give Canadians real relief this holiday season by removing unjustified hidden taxes on food and ensuring mom and dads can feed their families this.
The honourable member for Winnipeg West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to highlight the progress our government is making in expanding dental care across our country, and especially in Manitoba. The Canadian Dental Care Plan now covers nearly 6 million Canadians. Wow. In Manitoba, over 150,000 residents are enrolled, and more than 85,000 have already received care. To build on this progress, our federal government is investing over $35 million through the Oral Health Access Fund in 30 projects nationwide to strengthen training, support outreach, and reduce barriers to care. Nearly $6 million will go towards 4 initiatives at the University of Manitoba, including clinical internships, training modules, support for low-income patients, and stronger ties with local community organizations. These initiatives show the power of community collaboration and helping more Manitobans access the dental care they need, close to home. Thank you.
Bravo. Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's go.
Canadians deserve nutritious food that's affordable and excellent. But unfortunately, this isn't the case after 10 years of these Liberals. Let's look at today's facts that have come to light. The Canada Food Price Report expects a family of 4 to spend up to $17,600 more, an increase of $995 a year, almost a double since the Liberals came to power. When will the Liberals abolish the tax and the inflationary spending that are driving up grocery prices? The honourable member. First, Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon price does not apply to farmers. So they are taking imaginary cases that don't apply here. But if they want to talk about the food price report that was published today, what they said was that what will apply and that will have a cost on the price of groceries is climate change. I'd like to know if they're ready to fight against climate change. That party doesn't have a plan and they're fighting against Canada and not against climate change.
The opposition.
Let's analyze the weekly spending for groceries. According to today's report data, in 2015, the years when the Liberals came to power, the average Canadian family spent $163 a week on groceries. Today, next year rather, it'll be $340 a week, the double. The government's costs have driven up grocery prices. When will they abolish taxes? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, once again, they're just talking about imaginary taxes from the Leader of the Opposition. Systematically, this leader votes against food school programs. They vote against the Canada Child Benefit. They vote against dental care. They vote against pharmacare, things that help people who are in need in Canada. We are making these proposals, and they are opposed to them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Hardworking Canadians deserve affordable, nutritious, and delicious food. Meat and potatoes on the dinner table every single night. But after a decade of this Liberal government, the cost of groceries has literally doubled. Today, the food price report shows that Canadians will spend $17,600 to feed a family of 4 next year. Double what it was when the Liberals took office, and $995 than the preceding year after the Prime Minister promised to be judged by the price at the grocery store. Will the Prime Minister reverse his inflationary taxes on food?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, another example of the opposition using a report without actually taking the time to read it. In fact, beef, one of the prices that's going up most dramatically, is directly linked to climate change. In fact, the report says that challenges persisted for producers throughout the year in Western Canada as they experienced a drought and input costs like feed rose. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on how to help Canadians. That's why today I was with Ontario signing the child care agreement. It will save families $10,400 a year.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is the point in any Liberal term when they go from making promises to making excuses. The Prime Minister promised that he'd be judged by the prices at the grocery store. And let's look at those prices on a weekly basis. Today's report gives out data that shows that back when the Liberals took office in 2015, it was $163 a week to afford groceries for a family of 4. Now it's $340, literally double. Liberal taxes on farmers, fertilizers, food processors, and packaging have all driven up the cost of food. Will they reverse these Liberal taxes on groceries?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Instead of focusing on imaginary taxes, we're working to control the things we can, which is putting more money in the pockets of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's how you help Canadians with affordability challenges. You make sure they have the money so that they can adjust to whatever happens in the market. You'd think Conservatives would understand market pressures. It's clear they don't. Mr. Speaker, today we signed with Ontario an extension of the early learning and childcare program. Mr. Speaker, $10,400 per family on average. Do you know how many weeks of food that is? At least 63 at their cost.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Children cannot eat agreements or photo ops or promises. If any of these costly promises Liberals were making actually were real, then you wouldn't have seen the number of kids reliant on food banks doubled to 700,000 kids in the last 5 years. Today, a report from Dalhousie proves that the weekly grocery bill of a family of 4 has doubled to $340 a year. That's the result. So will they finally reverse the Liberal taxes that are driving up food?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, time and time again, the members opposite say no to Canadians, say no to supporting Canadians. We have a Canada Child Benefit that supports young families. It's indexed to inflation. It isn't taxed. It is something that they voted against. time and time again, we'll be there to fight for Canadians. And if he wants to talk about imaginary taxes, that's only an imaginary argument. We're doing the real work to support families.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the industrial carbon tax is not only real, it was in the Prime Minister's own budget that he wants to increase it. It's a tax on the steel that goes into farm equipment, the fertilizer that goes into farm fields, the equipment that goes into food processors. Then there's the tax on food packaging. By banning plastics, they're making food go bad earlier and costing an extra $1 billion, all of which is passed on. And finally, a $78 billion deficit is inflating the cost of everything. Wow. So instead of doubling the cost of food, why won't they scrap the taxes on groceries?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Speaker, it's clear the member of the opposition has not read the report because, in fact, the report predicts that inflation is actually going to stabilize and go down. So here's what we're doing on this side, Mr. Speaker. We're putting money in the pockets of Canadians, whether it's through the Canada Child Benefit, which, oh, by the way, is indexed to inflation and that they voted against, whether it's affordable child care, Mr. Speaker, for families with growing children, helping them save money for down payment on a house, which they say is a goal they have, but they voted against, or whether it's for school food programs for those families that need an extra hand. We're here for Canadians in good times and bad. It's pretty clear where they stand for themselves.
The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, we thought that the Liberals had finally agreed to remove from the criminal code the exemption that allows incitement to hatred under the guise of religion. But today we learn this is far from the case. Just as we're beginning to debate the Bloc's amendment to repeal the religious exemption, the Liberals tell us that they want to cancel all meetings of the Justice Committee until 2026. Clearly, they are afraid to adopt the Bloc's amendment. Clearly, they are bowing to religious lobbies. Will they pull themselves together and abolish the religious exemption, yes or no? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. Please, silence. Mr. Speaker, we are ready to do the work. We started last Tuesday to do a clause-by-clause study, and we're going to continue to work hard on this file. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, religion should never be an excuse for committing crimes, including incitement to hatred. Ending the religious exemption that allows this abuse is a unanimous request from the National Assembly of Quebec, but the Liberals are still abandoning the will of Quebecers to bow to the will of a handful of dogmatic religious leaders. Tolerating this type of speech is not respecting freedom of religion or freedom of expression. It's even less about being open to diversity. It is about being cowardly in the face of violence. Will the Liberals get their act together? The Honourable Minister. Speaking of freedom, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask a question that is very relevant with respect to today's news at the Bloc. Like their leader in Quebec, do they think that Quebec artists lack loyalty to the Quebec nation? May they answer the question yes or no? The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, we knew that the Conservatives would side with extremist preachers because they are the official party of the religious right. But it's appalling to see the Liberals abandon Quebecers, Canadians, and their fundamental principles. Principles such as equality before the law when it comes to crimes, principles such as gender equality, the rights of sexual minorities, the maintenance of social peace, etc. All because they're on their knees before the various religious right-wing groups. Will they stand up, get their stuff together, and immediately reconvene the Justice Committee to abolish the religious exception? The Honourable Minister. I understand, Mr. Speaker, that the Bloc wants to divert our attention, but if we invest historical amounts in culture, it's not to gain the loyalty of artists. It's for them to thrive themselves and have their expression. investment in culture could neutralize artists in their view, and it shows the disdain they have in Quebec for their artists. Neither the Bloc leader or they have the right to judge other Quebecers about their loyalty to Quebec.
The honourable member for Foothills.
The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by the price of food at the grocery store. Well, the verdict is in, and the Liberals have failed. Canada's food price guide said Canadians will spend $1,000 more on groceries next year, the highest increase in years. When the Liberals took office, the average weekly food bill was about $160. In a decade, it has more than doubled to $340 a week. Will the Prime Minister, why is he breaking his promises to Canadians and increasing taxes on farmers, on food and fuel?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, we've done more for affordability in 6 months than that leader and that party have done in 20 years. We've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for first-time homebuyers. We've cut the consumer carbon tax, automatic federal benefits, school food program. The list goes on and on. They opposed it all. With that leader, it's the same old tired rhetoric again and again. On this side, we're getting things done for Canadians. Thank you.
Member for Foothills.
Well, I think Canadians will have a very different point of view. They know these food increases, as a result of that was in this report, are a direct result of the Liberals' industrial carbon tax, fuel tax, and inflationary spending. The Prime Minister himself said he should be judged by the price of food. By his own metrics, he has failed. When the Liberals came to office, the annual food budget was about $8,300 a year. In a decade, it has doubled to $17,500 a year. Will the Prime Minister get rid of his taxes on food so Canadians can afford a Christmas dinner?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, that member, that leader and his party need to look in the mirror. They have voted against every affordability measure we have brought forth. Let's talk about automatic federal benefits. Benefits for 5.5 million Canadians, getting benefits to those that need it the most. Did they support it? No, of course they didn't support it. They have not supported one affordability measure we have put forth since we've come into government. It's time for them to look in the mirror, get real, support our programs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Newt-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, where's the beef? That's what Canadians are asking as food prices keep rising. This Prime Minister told Canadians he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store. And yet 86% of Canadians say they are cutting back on meat because they simply can't afford it. The Liberals' industrial carbon tax and inflationary deficits are driving up the price Canadians pay at the checkout line. Why is this Liberal government making it even harder for people to afford food?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
There's no taxes on food. And look, food's too expensive. That's a fact, but I've got some other facts for the member. One, the number one driver of food cost inflation is climate change, something those Conservatives will never say. Two, industrial carbon pricing applies to goods sold on international markets, and they're not passed on to consumers. Three, industrial carbon systems impact household expenses by 0%, Mr. Speaker. Here's some ideas of ways the Conservatives can actually help Canadians. Vote in favor of dental care. Vote in favor of national school food programs, vote in favor of affordable housing, or vote in favor of $10 a day childcare that we just signed with Ontario, Mr. Speaker. Try and help a Canadian for once.
The Honourable Member for Newt-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, that answer was all bun, no patty. Said nothing of substance to Canadians who can afford groceries. Because of Liberal policies, next year a family of four can expect to pay nearly $1,000 more. On food, food prices could rise 6% next year, with meat expected to see the biggest price hike. The Liberals are refusing to act to lower food costs. The beef's already gone, so what does that minister think Canadians should cut back on next?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, I've got a lot of respect for that member, and I've been to his riding, and I know the farmers in his riding very well, and they know that industrial carbon pricing doesn't affect the cost of food in Canada. He should spend more time talking of those farmers, Mr. Speaker. But if he wants something to put on his hot dog, here's 4 things. Dental care for Canadians, $10 a day child care for young kids, a national school food program to feed the kids in his riding. Mr. Speaker, affordable housing goes great on a hot dog. Put that on your hamburger.
Again, through the chair, the honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Canadians are now paying 112% more for food than when the Liberals took office, and groceries are consuming a bigger share of every family's budget. Even basic center aisle staples, such as coffee and baby formula, are skyrocketing. Canada's food price report confirms that next year, Canadians will pay an extra $1,000 on groceries. When will these Liberals finally stop their inflationary spending, scrap the industrial carbon tax, and let Canadians afford groceries again?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, instead of repeating the same canned lines, I would ask this member from Newfoundland and Labrador, Conservative member, to think about what she voted against. $10 a day childcare, food for kids in schools, something that her colleague called garbage, dental care, this family benefit. 46,000 families in our riding take advantage of this. I ask her to start to work for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, a local single mom of 3 reached out to me today in complete desperation. She's working hard, doing everything right, yet a series of setbacks has pushed her to the brink. She's falling behind on the basics. Now she's trying to figure out how to give her kids Christmas, while food inflation makes the essentials feel out of reach. Families shouldn't have to choose between groceries and giving their children a holiday. When will the Prime Minister finally take this seriously and make life affordable for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I would say to the mom in the member's riding, please ask your member to vote for childcare.
That's an idea.
Dental care.
That's an
school
idea.
nutrition program. A family of 2 can save $800 a year. Support the inflation index, Canada Child Benefit. 46,000 families need that support. Housing supports, and on I can go. These are tangible affordability measures. I will never politicize the struggles of moms in my province.
The Honourable Member for King Vaughan.
The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by the prices at the grocery stores. Under their watch, the weekly...
Liberals don't like the bosses.
You stand up.
The member can continue. It's fine.
The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by the price at the grocery store. Under their watch, the weekly grocery bill has doubled, and the food price report of 2026 says it will get even worse. Families in my community can't even afford a healthy meal, not even the modest Italian dish like pasta fagioli. Yet, this government keeps stirring the pot with higher spending, the industrial carbon tax, and the new fuel tax. What's the matter for you?
Everything's quite all right. Again, through the chair. I know it doesn't pack the same punch, but through the chair. The honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, those Conservatives clearly can talk until the cows come home, but they're all hat and no cattle. When their own platform had nothing in it for food affordability, did they vote to put money in the genes of Canadians? No. Did they vote for the National School Food Program? No. Did they vote for old age security? No. Did they vote for the Canada Child Care benefit? No. Did they vote for the disability benefit? No. There you have it, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Jean-Pierre. Mr. Speaker, Radio-Canada has revealed that the no side is reforming. The Liberals are wondering how to respond to a possible third referendum in Quebec. Well, here are some ideas. Don't betray Quebecers by abandoning the fight against climate change. Don't threaten a province with imposing a pipeline on it. Don't dismiss all of Quebec's requests on the budget. Don't turn the Quebec Liberal Party into a federal training club. Before even coming up with the arguments for the no side, have the Liberals, these world champions, considered that they could stop adding arguments to the yes side. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, do you know what they're not talking about in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean this morning? They're not talking about the obsession with the referendum. They're not talking about the separation, the division, about the squabbles in our society. They are worried about what? Their jobs, building our country, taking care of their kids, putting food on the table, and paying their mortgage, Mr. Speaker. What our party is concerned with. They are trying to divide and separate people. We are focused on jobs and the economy. The honourable member for Drummond. The government House Leader should perhaps go to Lac-Saint-Jean. Yes, they are talking about building a country, but yeah, the country of Quebec. So here's some more suggestions for the no camp. The federal government could respect Quebec's laws, such as state secularism or the Charter of the French language. They could fight against the decline of French in Quebec instead of funding its Anglicization. It could transfer immigration powers to Quebec. It could stop meddling in Quebec's areas of jurisdiction. There's a long list because we have the same issues since the 1980s. Nothing's changed. Is there someone who really still thinks that things will change today? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Throughout the last election campaign, the Bloc didn't propose anything. They just said, if it's good for Quebec, we'll vote for it. If it's not, we won't. But now, when they have the opportunity to vote for a good budget for Quebec that sets out $4 billion for Hydro-Quebec, investing in their infrastructure with historic investments in culture, they voted against it. And even worse, when they had the opportunity to present their requests, there was absolutely nothing on culture. That's a shame. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable-Aubinière. This Prime Minister, who has accomplished nothing since he took office, but has inflated spending, he said, Canadians will judge me on the cost of groceries. Well, the time for judgment has come, and the cost of food will rise at an unprecedented rate next year, according to the annual report. Average family paid $159 a week on groceries when the Liberals came to power in 2015. 10 years later, the bill has almost doubled to $340 a week. When will the Prime Minister stop his inflationary spending so that Canadians can eat their fill? Thank you. The Honourable Government House Leader. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I would challenge my colleague or any of his groups of colleagues to explain what inflationary spending is for them. Is it the school food program? Is it dental care? Is it investment in jobs, in renewable energy? What is inflationary spending for them? We're still wondering, and the colleague doesn't seem to know what it is. I would ask him to explain it to the House and to all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable-Aubinière. It seems to be hurting them when we say that their own Prime Minister said this. I didn't say it. The Prime Minister said, you will judge me on the cost of groceries. Well, the time for judgment has come. The average family will pay an extra $1,000 more next year, an extra $340 a week, twice what it was 10 years ago. He has been judged. He's lost. Now he needs to accept the verdict and put an end to his inflationary spending so that families can eat properly. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, perhaps let's turn things around. I can explain to him what important spending is. For us, it is spending that leads to job creation, spending that leads to single-parent families to have a child at daycare who will be fed through a school food program. An important spending for us is something that gives dignity, a job, an opportunity, a future to young Canadians. That's what important spending is for us, and they call that inflationary spending because they would cut all of that spending.
Member for Richmond, Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals find it funny that we're reminding everyone of the Prime Minister's promise that he could be judged based on the price of groceries. But their record is a failure. Canadians have seen no results. And why? Well, because it's the same old Liberal recipe, and they're expecting a different result. I don't know if the Prime Minister has ever done his own groceries, but the fact is that for many Canadians, it's a struggle. And they don't expect the Prime Minister to produce any results because he says, who cares? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives keep talking about inflationary spending, but when we ask them what that means, they can't answer. For example, during the campaign, we asked, would it be the dental care program that covers 1 million Quebecers? And all they say is the program doesn't exist. But I can guarantee that in his riding, there are thousands of his constituents that have been able to see the dentist for the first time in years, thanks to that project. Is that inflationary spending in his mind? The Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Minister wanted to be judged by the prices at the grocery store, and 8 months later, Canadians are judging and they're hungry. The food price report released today shows that the reality of Canadians is only getting worse. In 2015, the Canadian grocery store was $163 a week. Under these Liberals, it has more than doubled to $340. That's a grocery bill of $17,600 a year. Liberal taxes increase the cost of growing, transporting, and selling the food. When will these Liberals cut their inflationary spending and senseless taxes so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
The Conservatives say they care about affordability, but their voting record says something very different. The Conservatives vote against every measure designed to help Canadian families, Mr. Speaker. Let's take one example. Parents receive a payment every month called the Canada Child Benefit. Real help with groceries, real help with clothing, real help with the everyday costs of raising children in this country, Mr. Speaker, and they voted against it every time. It's crazy. That's saying one thing and doing another. That's the Conservative Party.
Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Tell this government that they can't afford food, their response is, well, you're taxed to death, you can't afford groceries, but cheer up, we have a program for you, you should be grateful, and you've never had it so good. 86% of Canadians list food as their largest financial worry. The food price report confirms grocery prices are set to increase up to 6% next year. That's $1,000 more just to feed a family. The Prime Minister asked to be judged by the prices at the grocery store while prices are set to reach historic highs. Will the Prime Minister admit his record is a failure?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, we'll stand by our record every day in this House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, they're the ones who have to be embarrassed about their record, their track record of voting against dental care, which is putting the money in pockets of real Canadians. The Canada Child Benefit, Mr. Speaker, a tax cut. Mr. Speaker, they voted against all of it. Building Canada homes, reducing the cost of homes, automatic tax filing so people get real benefits, Mr. Speaker. That's their record. That's what they have to stand behind.
Honourable Member for Winnipeg South.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Assembly of First Nations met here in Ottawa to advance economic sovereignty. And ministers from our government were at the table because reconciliation requires real partnership and real results. Can the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs outline how our government is turning commitments like Section 35 and the duty to consult into action, ensuring First Nations are not just consulted, but leading major projects and driving prosperity across the North?
Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, the Assembly of First Nations met in Ottawa, and many of us here were at the table with them. That shows that we're moving along together with First Nations. We are backing Indigenous-led growth and solutions. That's why more than half of Cannor's economic activity is being Indigenous-led. We're creating hundreds of jobs right now, like those at the First Casca construction in Yukon. Our government is also ensuring that Section 35 of the Constitution is fully respected. We are ensuring that First Nations are not just consulted, but that they're co-owners of major projects.
The honourable member for Montmorency Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister asked Canadians to judge him based on grocery prices, and what we can see is that not only is he failing to keep his promise, he's failing miserably. His policies are impoverishing Canadians but serving his friends and interests. When the Liberals came to power in 2015, the grocery bill was $159 per week. 10 years later, it has more than doubled to $338 or $17,500 per year. When will the Liberals finally stop their inflationary spending so Canadians can feed themselves and live decently? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, you know, Quebecers elected 44 Quebec Liberal members to deal with the economy in the face of the American tariffs. And what they've seen is that our plan is working. Our GDP has grown by 3.2%. Inflation's under control at 2.2%. 60,000 jobs were created and more in October. We have the highest growth rate in the G7. There's more to be done, and we know it, but we are going to make the economy grow while protecting our way of life. The honourable member for Montmorency Charlevoix. The latest food price report 2026 shows that while 2025 was tough, next year will be even worse. Families will spend 112% more on food than 10 years ago. 2.2 million Canadians are using food banks every month. 86% are eating less meat because of prices. Families will have to pay $1,000 more for food, the largest annual increase in Canadian history. Meanwhile, food inflation in Canada is rising 48% faster than in the U.S. Why won't the Prime Minister scrap his taxes on food so Canadians can finally afford to eat healthy food? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, my colleague is willfully blind because he's just cherry-picking figures. The fact is, inflation is down. It's at 2.2%. And it's also a fact that wages are increasing by 3.3%. So, of course, people have more money to pay for the cost of living. At the same time, what we're doing as a government is we are building a strong social safety net. We have various programs, including for school food. We will be there for Quebecers all across the province.
Honourable member for Cambridge.
Speaker, the prices at the grocery store was how the Prime Minister was to be judged. From Trudeau's crisis to this rebranded, not-so-new Liberal cabinet, Canadians are seeing costs go from bad to worse. Today's food price report shows that Canadians are bracing for the largest grocery increase in years, nearly $1,000 more. Under a decade of these Liberals, families have gone from spending $159 a week on groceries to $338. That's more than $17,500 a year. Families are stretched to the limit, and so are food banks. When will this government rein in its inflationary spending and cut the costs it piles onto farmers, truckers, and processors so Canadians can afford to eat?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretaries of State for Labour, for Seniors, and for Children and Youth.
Mr. Speaker, a national school food program that's going to save parents up to $800 a year, a dental care program, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, early learning and child care, a Canada Child benefit. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition stood up in this House today and called these costly promises. Members opposite call these photo ops. They call them garbage. They call them socialist programs. Mr. Speaker, this is a case of saying the quiet part out loud. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. Canadians know who's fighting for them.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Their program programs don't feed seniors. When Liberals claim their taxes are imaginary, I think of a senior woman in my community, one who told me she can barely afford to eat and that someday she wishes she simply wouldn't wake up because living in this indignity is harder than dying. That is what 10 years of soaring food prices and punishing taxes have done to Canadians. Not imaginary, real. Not theoretical, human. Families are being crushed by fuel costs, fertilizer costs, and the industrial carbon tax. And yet the Prime Minister looks at Canadians suffering the same way he looks at Brookfield balance sheets, as numbers, not people. When will the Prime Minister prioritise making food affordable?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, when I talk to seniors in my riding, they talk to me about the Canadian Dental Care Program. They say that this is life-changing, that this is getting them the dental care that they haven't had for years for the first time. They talk to me about the New Horizons program and how we're supporting projects that improve their quality of life. They talk to me about the $5 billion that Budget 2025 is putting into new hospital infrastructure and urgent care. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is spewing nonsense, and if she wants to stand up for seniors, she should have voted for the budget when she had the chance.
The Honourable Member for Brandon-Souris.
When the Liberals came to office in 2015, the average Canadian grocery bill was $160 a week. A decade later, it has more than doubled to $338 a week. That's $17,500 a year. And next year's food price report confirms Canadians will pay another $1,000 more, the largest annual increase ever. Yet instead of axing taxes and spending that increase the cost of growing, transporting and selling food, these Liberals actually raised them in Budget 2025. When are the Liberals going to read the room and get prices down so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, that member opposite is from my home community. If he was talking to Manitobans, he would know that they want $10 a day daycare.
Right.
They want the school food program.
Right.
They want investments in housing and infrastructure.
Right.
So if he was talking to Manitobans, he would know that Manitobans support our budget. He should be supporting our budget as well.
Right.
These are generational investments like never before. He needs to get on side.
You're here. The Honourable Member for Brandon-Souris.
I'd invite the minister to get outside the perimeter highway in Winnipeg every once in a while and come and tour communities in Manitoba. Here's a few facts for her. Families in Manitoba are being squeezed harder than ever thanks to her Liberal government. With Harvest Manitoba reporting today, 60,000 Manitobans a month are accessing food banks, and almost 50% of them are families with young children. A record for that minister to be proud of. Canadians don't need handouts fueling dependence on government bloated programs. They need affordable groceries on their kitchen tables. When is she going to get out of the way and deliver that for Manitobans?
The honourable government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there you have it. Handouts. That's right. Dependence. That's right. Talking about school food programs. Right. Talking about child care. Trying to lecture my colleague from Churchill about not getting out enough. That member needs to talk to more single mothers. That member needs to talk to more young people, more skilled workers, more aluminum workers, more steel workers, more auto workers, about supporting it, about the government standing up and supporting and building this country. That member needs to get out.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Stellantis is investing $13 billion of their own dollars into the United States to create 5,000 auto jobs. Meanwhile, this Liberal government gave Stellantis $15 billion taxpayer dollars, and they fired 3,000 auto workers. Let that sink in for a minute. This is what happens when incompetent Liberal ministers don't read contracts. And this isn't an investment. This is a corporate ripoff. They took $15 billion and fired the workers. How does this incompetent minister sleep at night?
Good question. How? Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie. Honorable Minister of Industry.
We take very seriously when it comes to investing taxpayers' money. And when it comes to Stellantis, we had a deal. They broke it. And we'll make sure that we get our money back, period.
Member for Dufferin Caledon.
So, unlike that minister, I've actually read the contracts. And if she actually had a legal case to do anything about the 3,000 workers that got fired in exchange for $15 billion, they would have sued. But guess what? They haven't. And you know why, Mr. Speaker? And all Canadians should know the extent of the incompetence of this Liberal government. The jobs guarantee in those contracts are not worth the paper they're written on. If I drafted that as a first-year law student, I would have got an F. How does this minister stand here and defend this terrible contract?
Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have no lesson to take from the Conservative. In 2009, when the Harper government decided to bail out and shake hands, GM and Chrysler at the time, they gave $28 billion of Canadian taxpayers' money without no job guarantee. You know what happened, Mr. Speaker? 2 GM plants closed, one in Oshawa, another in Windsor. One Ford assembly plant closed as well, and one Orion bus plant closed in Mississauga. This is their record. We're creating jobs, and we're fighting for them.
The honourable member for Simcoe North.
The Liberals committed $15 billion to Stellantis, only to have them ship 3,000 jobs south of the border. In fact, just in the White House yesterday, Stellantis says they're investing $13 billion in the U.S. to create 5,000 jobs. Every time this government makes a deal, it seems like executives get taken care of while employees get overlooked. When will this Liberal government prioritize jobs for Canadians instead of corporate welfare for executives?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, speaking of jobs, we are focused on creating jobs for the good workers in Brampton across Ontario. The Prime Minister committed $2 billion to build small modular reactors in Ontario, a project that will create 18,000 jobs in Ontario and help build Canada as an energy superpower. You look at the opportunities we're creating through nuclear exports, a sector valued to create 90,000 jobs and 250 businesses in Ontario, Mr. Speaker. We remain relentlessly focused on creating jobs in nuclear, in energy across Ontario, in communities, including Brampton. Thank you.
Honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, for over 3 years, Ukrainians have fought valiantly against Russia's illegal and brutal invasion, defending not just their homeland, but the principle that borders must not be changed by force and that every nation has a right to determine its own future. Canada has stood with Ukraine from day one, and now more than ever, they need our support on the battlefield, where it matters most. Can the Minister of National Defence update this House on the latest steps Canada is taking to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs to win?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, this week we announced our purchase of a package of critical military capability under NATO's Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List, or PEARL, in partnership with other NATO allies. Our $200 million contribution to this PEARL package will include capabilities that have been specifically identified by Ukraine as their urgent requirements to support their defense against Russia's aggression and war. Mr. Speaker, make no mistake, Canada will stand with Ukraine until victory.
The member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, last year over half the people who became Canadian citizens did so by clicking a box online. That is crazy. There's no justification for this. In-person citizen ceremonies are essential unifying bedrock of Canada's civic life, Mr. Speaker. Swearing the oath of citizenship in front of an official should be upheld as an integral part of committing to the responsibilities that come with being Canadian. Will the minister immediately end one-click virtual citizenship ceremonies?
Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for that question. I respect that member, and I know he knows that that's not correct. I know that he recognizes that we have a robust system in this country that there is no such thing as that one system, that we have multiple layers, and when it comes to citizenship ceremonies,
It's a duo.
there is no such thing as that. There is multiple layers of defense. When somebody is coming out of port of entry, 100% of those people spend considerable time with border services. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Knowles Hill.
So the minister completely didn't answer to the question. She didn't listen to it. My colleague asked why she was allowing one-click citizenship ceremonies, which, to repeat a famous line in the House, we found on your website. People get their citizenship by doing a virtual ceremony and clicking a box. That's what we're talking about here. This is I cannot believe she's still the minister. Will she end one-click virtual citizenship ceremonies?
The honourable minister.
Say it's not. Mr. Speaker, here's the facts. Okay, virtual citizenship ceremony were started during the time of the pandemic. We all know during COVID, life shifted. Even in this parliament, we now have the voting app, for an example. So we're always looking for opportunities to celebrate our citizenship, to bring people together, to celebrate and build Canadian economy and make it strong, and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
Good job. Honourable member for Calgary Knowles Hill.
Last year, well after the pandemic, more than half of Canadian citizenships were conducted where? Online, by clicking a box. How does that unify Canadians? How does that imply and impart the responsibilities of being Canadian? She's standing up here and defending a post-national strategy. Will she end one-click virtual citizenship?
Hear, hear.
The honourable minister.
Again, I'm correcting the record for that member and those that are listening. Virtual citizenship ceremonies started during the pandemic. That is correct. There are still some that are happening. However, all new Canadians, while it is still being done under a secure, full-fledged citizenship ceremony with officials present. Thank you.
The honourable member for Pickering Brooklyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cyclone Ditwa has devastated communities across Sri Lanka, causing severe flooding and landslides that has claimed over 465 lives and left hundreds more missing. Homes, infrastructure, and local economies have suffered serious damage, and communities across the country are struggling to deal with aftermath, especially in the northeast hill regions, which are already struggling due to poverty and war. Canada has always been known as a partner that we can count on in moments of hardship. Could the Secretary of State for International Development inform this House of
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Our hearts are with those affected by the devastating floods in Sri Lanka, which has declared a state of emergency. Mr. Speaker, in times of crisis, Canadians step up. And to support an urgent and immediate response, Canada is providing an initial $1 million in humanitarian aid to help the Red Cross, the Humanitarian Coalition, and other partners deliver life-saving relief. This means emergency shelter, water, health services, and other essentials to the most affected, and builds on support Canada's already provided through the World Food Programme's emergency response. We're closely following developments across the region and will continue to stand with communities facing the impacts of danger.
The honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the chair of the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Yesterday, the Liberals got up in question period and accused Conservatives of obstructing work on Liberal Bill C-9, which takes aim at religious freedom and freedom of expression. The Liberals said they wanted to conduct clause-by-clause review today, but this morning, the Liberal chair cancelled the meeting, obstructing the Liberal government's own agenda and denying our right as legislators to do our work. Why did the chair cancel the meeting, and will he commit to calling our scheduled meeting on Tuesday so we can get to work?
The honourable member for Lakeshore, Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I became chair of the Justice Committee just 2 short days ago, and I'm honored to take that responsibility, and I take it very seriously. Look, it became very apparent to me quickly that the committee was having a great deal of trouble. Emotions were running high, and they didn't have a path forward to deal with some very important legislation that was before the committee. So acting in the best interest of the committee members, the members of this House, and the members of the public who want this bill to pass, I decided to cancel the meeting so the members could regroup to find a path forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable. Okay, enough. The Honourable Member for Brant. Brantford South. The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Options for housing in Nunavut are limited. Mold leads to chronic illness, overcrowding.
Well, the Honourable Member for Nunavut may start from the top if she wishes.
Options for housing in Nunavut are limited. Mold leads to chronic illness. Overcrowding leads to abuse of women already in unsafe conditions. There are 37,000 families, there are 3,700 families on the waiting list according to Nunavut Housing Corporation. Once these houses are built, it will cost over $3 billion to maintain them. This government has only promised 700 new homes. Why aren't the Liberals fully funding Nunavut to meet the urgent housing need?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our new government is delivering on its commitments. We are dedicating $2.3 billion to urban, rural, northern homes. We're also partnering to deliver over 700 new homes and fast-tracking them. We're also building on 450 additional homes that will start in the next few years. In the Northwest Territories, we're funding 150 social homes, and in Whitehorse, 100 new affordable homes. This is just the beginning, Mr. Speaker, because we're delivering on the 3,000 homes by 2030. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some might call it a flip-flop, but a flip-flop is a sandal, and this is a betrayal. On page 348 of the budget, it says clearly that investment tax credits will not be available for enhanced oil recovery. Yet in the Memorandum of Understanding with the province of Alberta, it says we will extend federal investment tax credits to various parts of carbon capture and storage, including enhanced oil recovery. My question to the Minister of Finance is, with this additional handout to big oil, have they recalculated how deep the deficit will be? How much above $78 billion is it now?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta, which provides many opportunities for us to move forward on industrial carbon pricing and on clean electricity, on building interties with neighbouring provinces. All steps that are incredibly important for us as we try and build a clean economy and build our country strong for the future. So I thank you for the question. We will keep on working to build a strong Canada going forward.
Rappel au règlement.
Rising on a point of order.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.